What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, apparently, after the Middlesbrough game at Middlesbrough, apparently Pochettino said, you know what? I really feel like we did a good job of creating but not finishing chances whenever Palmer was at the false nine when he started there. So let's try that again. And maybe we'll get the same result. And we did. We didn't score. Created a bunch of chances, should have finished a ton of chances, but we didn't. And I know some of it is just lack of finishing, some of it's lack of confidence, but you know where that starts? It starts from the way you've lined up your team. You've taken your most creative attacking player out of the creative part of the field and isolated him up top. And you can tell. You can tell the difference when he plays up there because there's nobody in front of him that he can use as a shield. There's nobody in front of him that draws defenders away. He's up there all on his lonesome. And it shows. And once again, he had another at Middlesbrough type of game, didn't he? Isn't that weird? The two games where he starts at striker, he gets all these chances that he wastes, that he misses. Isn't that... I mean, it's almost like there's a pattern forming here, right? And yet I guarantee... until Jackson comes back, he's still our second option at striker. I guarantee rather than play anybody else there, rather than try out Washington, we have Fofana back at the club. Nobody else, we're just going to keep sticking with, let's go with Palmer up there. It's not worked 2 games now. Let's go with him again. I'm willing to bet it's going to work one of these times, right? Surely it's going to work one of these times. It won't, and don't call me Shirley. So, yeah, I mean, Pochettino's an idiot. You've got Badiashile back in the lineup. And granted, I know you're limited on options and you don't want to go with the same exact defense because legs and Chilwell's returning from injury. I get all that. Still sucks. And honestly, out of all of the defensive lineups he could have gone with, I feel like Badiashile at left, probably one of the worst ones, more than likely. Disasi in the center. I mean, those are two players that definitely... I mean, Badiashile anywhere in the back line, to be fair, doesn't work. But Disasi in the center, I talked about it during the Middlesbrough game. If he's out on the right, he's a little less dangerous to you. When you put him in the center, if he makes a mistake, that's it. If he steps up out of defense or gets pulled out of position, that's it. There's nobody to be behind him to cover for him. So I felt like the defense was maybe a little sloppily put together, and some of that is down to the fact that Colwill got injured. But the fact that Colwill was about to start at left back, I got to ask some questions about that too. Because we've seen he's not a left back. We've seen he doesn't do well there, and yet you were about to throw him back in there again? And then his subs were... I mean, first of all, Chilwell on at 60 for Gilchrist. Kind of prefer for Badiashile, but I get it. I get Gilchrist is still young, so he's not ready to go full 90 yet. I get you're going with the more senior back line, so you're basically going to what it was going to start at, except Colwill's out, Chilwell's in. I get that. But why isn't Broja coming in at 60? Now, don't get me wrong, Broja, not a good player. He's not good. He's not in a good run of form. Clearly not the player that we need to get us back into it. But what it does do, you put him in, you put Palmer where he needs to be at number 10. Now all of a sudden you've got Palmer playing in his best position. And now we've got a chance, and you've got 30 minutes for something to happen with that. But he waits, and then... what was it, like the 73rd minute or something like that? Then he goes with Broja in for Mediaweke, pushes Palmer out wide. Because Palmer out wide is gonna really do something, right? Palmer out wide, that is his best position, guys. I mean, he's been so effective over... against Middlesbrough, against Fulham. Where was he playing? Center attacking mid. Where did we look strong? Center attacking mid. At least I'm pretty sure he played center attacking mid against Fulham. I don't remember. That game was such a blur to me. But that's where he needs to be. He needs to be in behind the striker. It's Potter and Tuchel and Havertz all over again. They refuse to play Havertz as a number 10, which is where he was best. For whatever reason, despite the fact we've had multiple instances of, hey, Palmer looks great when he's at number 10, we keep trying to elsewhere. Put him up top, false 9. Put him out wide. Make him a wing. Maybe something will happen. Why? His best position in behind the striker. Play him there. And then on top of that, at the same time you bring in Broja, hey, Podge, who are you going to bring in to save the game? Mudryk. What? What's wrong with Mudryk? Ooh, say it again. Mudryk. Ooh, say it again. I mean, what is he going to do? I'll tell you what he did. Nothing. And that's exactly what I thought he was going to do. This was not a game for him at all. Maybe in the first half, when it was a little bit more end-to-end, but even then, most of that end-to-end stuff came from them packing it in and then countering on us. It didn't come from them stepping out and being, what's the word I'm looking for? Stretched. They weren't stretched in the first half. So this was not a game for Mudryk. And again, there's not going to be many games for Mudryk. When you think about what he does well, the teams he plays well against, basically only your big six. The teams that will step out against you and will leave a ton of space in behind. Your Tottenhams, your Liverpools, your Man Cities, your Arsenals. Those teams that are not going to pack it in against you, those are the teams he'll do well against. And yet we brought him in for a crap ton of money. And then Chukwuemeka coming on late. I mean, he probably should have come on instead of Mudryk, to be honest. I don't know why he wasn't on sooner. Because again, he looks pretty solid when we saw the little bit of him against Middlesbrough, and he looked solid before he got injured this season. So why are we not giving him some more time to see what he can do, see if he can get in there and change the game? But now let's save him for basically the last 3 minutes plus stoppage time, which I will say from the refereeing point of view, what was that, 3 minutes? In today's standard, you look at Cash went down twice with injury, one of which he was down for at least a minute. The other one was a bit shorter. Martinez wasted probably a good 30 seconds on every single goal kick he took, which was quite a few. And you're telling me you got 3 minutes out of all of that? I don't think so. In today's era where stoppage time is very, very it's probably over-exaggerated a little too much. You really think that was 3 minutes? I highly doubt it. I bet if you go back through, you could probably find 3 minutes in just the first half of the second half. But anyways, we're not going to talk about how bad the referees were today. Let's go ahead and talk about our players. So first of all, Petrovic obviously didn't have a whole lot to do because we were dominant for most of it. It was very much a Potter type of performance where we dominated possession, so much control over the ball, lack of finishing in the final third. Stuff we've seen 100 times before, and we've only seen it a few times with Pochettino, but those moments when it does pop up, it just really frustrates me because it gives me a little bit of PTSD from last year. But Petrovic, he was called on once to make a big save, and he did it. So I'm glad he did that. In the back line, Gilchrist, I thought looked solid. And honestly, he's looking like he might be a better option at right back than even Gusto at this point. Depends on when Gusto comes back. He had a few run of games there where he did look pretty solid and he started to step up a little bit. But then after a few games, it was basically like Cucurella. Cucurella had a few games where you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe he can be effective. And then all of a sudden, just huge drop off. So if Gusto comes back and continues the run of form that we saw before he went out, maybe not. But right now, based on what I've seen overall this season, I'm seeing more from Gilchrist than I am from Gusto. So I'm liking what I've seen from him more there. Disasi in the center. I mean, like I said, he's one of those defenders. He's prone to make mistakes, and when he's in the center, it's a lot more scary in those moments. So, I mean, he didn't make too many mistakes today overall, but there still were those moments where it felt like he looked a little shaky, was a little slow on the ball. Not great, but not terrible. Silva, he's at that age. I've talked about this before this season. He's at that age where you play Tuesday, you play Friday. First of all, why are we playing Friday? We played Tuesday, and we're one of the first games, and then we play Wednesday in the Premier League. So we're one of the first games on the FA Cup, and then one of the last games of the Premier League next midweek. How does that make sense? And to me, that makes no sense whatsoever. It feels like terrible scheduling. But whatever the case, Silva is just not capable at this point of looking 100% fully ready for a game, 2 games in a row, back to back like this, only 3 days apart. I just don't think he's physically capable of doing that anymore. And while he wasn't bad today, he probably was our best defender overall. There were still moments where it felt like he was a little bit slow to pick up a run or a little bit slow to get to the ball first. And I think most of that is just because we played 3 days ago. So it's one of those unfortunate things that you couldn't predict at the beginning of the season unless you thought about the fact that our physio staff and our medical team and all of our players are just, I mean, we're prone to have injuries. So I guess if you look at that, you could probably say, yeah, you know what, we probably need to get a few more defenders. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect Silva to be utilized this much because you would think, oh, we should have enough cover with Disasi, Badiashile, Colwill, Chalaba, Fafana. You've got 5 other defenders that you can throw back there, and we've only been able to use 3 of those. And on it, actually, not even Badiashile. Well, Colwill, but he's been left back. That's the thing. Cole's had to play left back, so you can't even use him as a center back. So it's really only been Silva and Disasi that you could count on through this season. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, I love Silva. I think he's probably my favorite player at the club at the moment. But he just can't do it that often, that close together. Betty Schill on the left side, I mean, he's been one of our worst defenders recently, and it still looks like it. I don't know what to say. Basically, if you go back and watch some of my reviews of the games, like the one where he trapped it for, who was that? What game was that where he trapped it for the striker and basically said, "Here you go, have a goal." Oh, I don't remember what game that was now. But if you watch my reviews from that time period, assuming I did reviews of those, basically you can see what my thoughts about Badiashile are. It's funny because last season I wanted to see more of him. I thought he looked confident. I thought he looked composed. He looked like a solid defender, almost like a young Silva the way he played. It's a little bit slower, but it looked like he had the composure and the touch to really just get out of pressure, no problem. Nowadays, it looks like he's trying to play with that same confidence with the skill level of like, I don't know, Maguire. Like it's not good enough. And especially, I mean, late on, you've got him trying to dribble out of pressure and giving the ball away. You've got 3 minutes left, and we throw it in and we go across the field to him when he's under pressure. That's exactly what Villa want. And sure enough, he takes a bad touch and suddenly Watkins almost pounces on it. So it's just too mistake prone, too many issues. I don't really want to see him in the side anymore. I know we are limited on options. I would much rather see a youngster come in and get a chance than see Badiashile play at the moment because he is just not good enough. And every game there are more mistakes, more issues that make me go, he needs to be gone. All right, so that's back four that started. Center mids. Fernandez, not his best game, but solid enough. He did enough on the ball that helped us. He did move the ball around quickly, but I didn't feel like there was quite the same level of cutting through, precision. His passes just didn't feel like they were as dangerous today, and it felt like he wasn't quite on the same level that we've come to expect from him. So I don't know what was going on with him. Maybe just tiredness from playing 3 days ago, but he still looked okay today. Whereas Caicedo, 100 million pounds of waste on the field, and he's one that's kind of been riding the line of being average to bad, to average to bad. He's kind of been there for a little while now. Like, he's been a consistent player in the side. It's kind of like Jorginho. He's been in there consistently. If I don't notice him, that's typically a better thing, because when I notice him, that's when I know that he's doing something wrong. Because when I think about it and I'm like, I remember a lot of Caicedo today, it's because he gave the ball away so damn much. So that's not... I mean, I don't know. It is one of those things where if he's your defensive midfielder, if he's your midfielder that's just supposed to be cleaning up the play and keeping the ball moving, if that's the type of player he is, then sometimes, yeah, it's fine that he's not as noticed. It's fine if he goes a bit under the radar because at least he's doing his job well. But at the same time, when we purchase him for that much, I'm expecting like Conte levels of defending. I'm expecting Conte levels of winning the ball back. I'm expecting anything on the passing front, or Kovacic level of dribbling. But no, I'm getting none of that. I'm getting Bakayoko levels of work from him. I'm getting Jorginho levels of defending from him, and I'm getting, I don't know, who's somebody that gave the ball away a lot in the midfield. Mikel, maybe? I mean, just, there's nothing about his game that gets me excited to see more of him. And we bought him for $100 million. Why? It's insane. But today's another game. Today's another game where he just showed he's not worth that level. He's not worth that amount of money. He's worthless. Gallagher in the center up top. It is a game that, if Villa were more in control, probably would have been a lot more effective. And the moments when Villa were keeping a bit more possession, that is when he looked a lot better, a lot more dangerous. But those moments are few and far between. For a majority of the game, it was us in control, us having possession, us trying to create something, and in those moments, he's just not as good. And I've said this several times before. Today's another example. So until he can start to look a little bit more creative or have that finishing quality that we've seen from him sometimes, if he has that one or two games where suddenly he's just absolutely blazing shots in from outside the box and looks fantastic. It doesn't happen enough for me to feel like I want to see him at center attacking mid. I think his best position is still the ball-winning midfielder sitting a bit deeper. I think that is still where he is best, and I don't know. I don't know. It's funny because I don't think I thought that last season. I think last season I thought he would be better up top, kind of running around, but we didn't have somebody like Palmer who plays that 10 position so well that it's hard not to say, play him there. But now that we've got Palmer there, I mean, I don't see why you would play Gallagher there ever over Palmer, unless you're trying some experimental thing that isn't working with Palmer. On the left side, Sterling honestly looked like probably our most dangerous player. Problem is most of the time these runs that he's making in, Palmer's there at the top of the box if he's playing center attacking mid. But because he's making the striker runs, he's covered by 3 or 4 defenders all around him. And there's so much space top of the box. Gallagher's not there because he's making another bad run. It's one of those things where you watch the game and you go, hey, look, here's why Palmer as a false 9 doesn't work, and then we'll see him as a false 9 3 games later. I don't know. I don't know what else I can do to prove my point, but there's another one. But I thought overall he looked fine today. There were a few moments when he was a little bit lazy or a little bit too... I need to come up with a word for complainy. He was a little too much like Bruno. Bruno Fernandes. Like those types of players that would rather complain to the referee than they would play. Those players piss me off. And so when Sterling gets into that mood, because he does it quite a bit, where he'd rather look for the penalty or look to call for a foul or for a handball instead of, hey, look, the ball's right there. Why don't you go get it? It pisses me off to no end. Madueke on the other side, I don't know. I really don't know how to quantify him. I mean, he is such a flash-in-the-pan type of player, but in the games whenever we need goals, he's the most frustrating player in the world. Because there are so many moments where he's trying to do something trying to do something with flair, I guess. Trying to do something fantastic, go for the fantastic shot, do such and such. He's trying to do all these fantastic things when you really just want him to keep it simple. I mean, the one where Palmer slips him through, pass it to the far post. And instead, I don't know what he was trying. Was he trying to put some more bend on it? But he just mishits it and puts it right in Martinez, basically. And there are several moments where he's got passes on, he's got players he can play it to, and instead he tries to dribble or he tries to do a move and he gets poked off of him. There's just too much of that. Trying to take a shot whenever he's got some, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Gallagher in the center of the box. He's right there. Just play it to him. Instead you go for the shot. Why? So it very much reminds me of Ziyech. Ziyech had those moments too where he would be our most creative, our most dangerous player on the field because he was willing to try something. He was willing to give an effort where some of the players they weren't confident enough to take on a dribble or take on a shot. Ziyech was. But in the games whenever we needed to keep it a bit more simple, and we needed to try to knock it around a bit more, or maybe try to find a better pass and not go for glory, those are the games when Ziyech would frustrate me to no end because he'd be giving the ball away cheaply, trying to do something incredible, and it doesn't come off. So that's where Madueke was today. That feeling of he's trying to do something, but he's not doing it effectively, and so it's just wasting these opportunities whenever he had better options. That's where it gets really frustrating for me. And then Palmer up top, like I said, he's not a false nine. He doesn't need to be playing false nine. 2 games in a row now where he started there, and we've ended with no goals. Stop trying it. I said the same thing with Havertz when he was trying out as a false nine under Tuchel, and then when Potter kept trying him throughout the season. There were very few times when we would score when Havertz was playing false nine. 2 games in a row now, I've seen evidence of Palmer starts at false nine, we waste chances. There's not enough creativity in the box. We're not necessarily playing terribly, but we're not finishing our chances. So stop doing that. That's all I've got to say on the matter. His overall performance today, though, he was solid, but just like at the Middlesbrough game, wasted chances. 2 that were, basically just tap-ins. All he had to do was just pass it around him, and I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know what, from a player that has been so composed in so many games this season, to see him waste chances like that, it boggles my mind. And all I can think is, it's got to be something to do with his positioning. Like his positioning on the field, maybe it feels different to him. Maybe his confidence level's a little bit lower. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I watch him whenever in these past 2 games where he's played as a false nine, and he's just not the same player. He's not the same confident, composed finisher that we've seen. So, I don't know. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why Poch has tried it more than once after that Middlesbrough game, but hopefully this is the last time we see it. It seems like whenever we switch to it after we're already a goal or 4 up, I don't think it's as big of a deal because, at that time it's not like we're pushing for a goal, so the other team's not going to be packing it in. We have been a bit more effective in those games because of that. But whenever we start with that, whenever that's how we set up to play, it just doesn't work. So I really hope this is the last time we see that throughout the season. As far as the subs that came in, who was the first one? Chilwell came on. Honestly, I expected a bit more, but didn't really provide much of anything for us. I honestly thought once he came in, we'd start to see maybe a little bit more creativity, but really we had nothing. And I do think some of that is just down to the fact that, again, we didn't have a striker up there that we could look to go in behind for most of the second half. But even then, his just overall quality on the ball today was not nearly the same as what we saw. And granted, still coming back from injury. And he has had these little slow starts when he's come back originally. But he had such a good, fast start against Middlesbrough. I was a little bit more excited, thinking maybe he's going to be at a higher quality than when he's come back from injury before. But today kind of showed maybe not. Maybe it still is kind of a slower start. Broya came on, and obviously, he looked terrible. I think it was too late in the game for that to make a real impact in it. And obviously, he had his moments where he could have done something being in that position. But also, I think not having Palmer in behind him, I just don't think there's that creative force that we are able to utilize whenever Broya is up there. So, obviously, not a good player, but also was not utilized correctly. Mudryk, like I said, nothing. Enough said. And then Chukwuemeka, I felt like he didn't really have enough time to come on and do much of anything. He had a couple of moments when he was involved and a little bit of energy from him, but for the most part, he came on with only, 6 minutes left? Plus, if you added the stoppage time in, I think he only had 6 minutes to try to do something. And it was in a time period whenever Villa had just already started to grow in confidence and really start to threaten our goal a lot more because we, same as Potter Ball, didn't finish our chances, and now all of a sudden we're under pressure and we're struggling, we can hardly get the ball out. So I feel like it was a tough game for Chukwuemeka to come back into as well. I know he's already had one appearance off the bench already since returning from injury, but this is a tough one to really, you're trying to get your minutes in, you're trying to get minutes in your legs after an injury. This is a tough game to come back to. This is a tough game to try to get minutes in because it's a lot of just defending and kind of last-ditch defending. We're not really able to get out that much. So I thought it was a little unfair to him to bring him on so late and in such a difficult situation. So, But all in all, I mean, I think replay was, I don't know. I mean, a loss would have been terrible. Replay's pretty bad, though. Because it feels like, I mean, we're awful on the road. So it feels like a loss is coming anyway. It just feels like now we have another game to play and we're still going to lose. And I know that sounds like a pessimist thing, but, I mean, have you seen our form on the road? We couldn't even beat a championship side. I'm not exactly looking forward to playing Villa at Villa Park. It's not going to be a good game for us. Hell, I'm not even looking forward to Anfield next. So, yeah, I don't think, I feel like a draw was probably the worst result. It's not good. And again, from Pochettino's point of view, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he saw in that Middlesbrough game at Middlesbrough. I don't know what he saw from Palmer being up top that convinced him that this was a good idea. But hopefully, after seeing this, I mean, maybe in his mind, he'll look at it and be like, well, we're still creating a bunch of chances. We just got to finish them. But this is still working because we're creating so many chances. Maybe that's what's going through his mind. And if it is, then I guess you have a little bit of a point there. But at the end of the day, there's still so many moments throughout the game whenever Palmer is not in the position he would normally be in to finish chances, to be on the end of crosses, to pick up a loose ball in the box. He's a little too far in. He's being marked by 3 defenders that are all well taller than him. He's just not going to be as effective when you're putting him at striker. It's just, that's the case of it. So stop doing it, please. But we'll see what happens next. See how Anfield goes. Again, I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm not really looking forward to it because of our form on the road, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.